Hello and welcome back to day number 7 of the TT Lock-In, fueled by Monster Energy. Today would have been a massive day of racing over on the island, with the three-wheeling media sidecar race alongside the big one, the Milwaukee Senior TT. But we've still got plenty of action coming up tonight, including the final day of racing at the virtual TT powered by Motul. Team Miller and Team Hickman are the final 2 teams to go. Can they get anywhere near that time set by Team Todd?
Scary corner, proper ballsy.
And coming up in the TT Lock-In Live tonight, we have 2 great guests. I'm really looking forward to chatting to these 2. We've got Carl Fogarty and Rob McElnea. But first up, another episode of the Ultimate TT Races presented by Bennetts. And this one, in my opinion, greatest race ever. It's Hislop versus Fogarty, 1992.
For more than a century, the Isle of Man TT has produced many heroes and legends, plus provided some of the greatest motorcycle races the sport has ever known. In 1992, the planets and the stars seemingly aligned to bring us arguably the best ever, which involved a man who was that good, they built statues of him. In 1991, Honda teammates Carl Fogarty and Steve Hislop had provided a week-long running duel which is remembered as one of the classic years in the history of the Isle of Man TT races. A year later, they were back, this time Fogarty on the OW01 Yamaha, while Hislop had the 588cc rotary Norton. During race week of 92, neither had managed a victory, with Fogarty looking to end his TT career on a high, while Hislop was aiming to give Norton its first senior TT victory since Mike Hailwood in 1961. The scene was set for what many say is the greatest TT race of all time.
The young Carl Fogarty was, I'm going to assume he knew he was quick, because he certainly thought he was quick and he certainly thought he should win. And he had the Mark I edition of the race face, you know, that look through the visor. We're talking a fast young man with a point to prove. I think that is the most civilised way to put it. Hizzy, one of the most naturally gifted racers, and I'm not alone in this opinion, it's one of the most naturally gifted racers this country has produced. I can't think of a more different racer.
The man in charge of the Honda racing team in the early 1990s was Neil Tuxworth.
That was 91, and Steve Hislop won both the races that year on the RVF. Carl Fogarty was second to him in the Formula One. It's like all things with riders, they change teams for various reasons. That was the point with Steve Hislop where he'd more or less decided to stop doing the TT. I know he did come back and he rode the Norton, but Steve was getting to the point where, as you well know, in the latter years of Steve's career and his life, he didn't do the Isle of Man TT, stopped doing it after he'd had 11 wins, and he wanted to concentrate on short circuits. Carl Fogarty, on the other hand, he was going into the World Superbike Championship. So, of course, he had a different direction to go as well. So they both just went in different directions in their career, really, and that's why they moved. Yes, Carl rode the Yamaha, I appreciate that there, but he didn't have to do lots of other road races, which Honda would have required. So that's why they both moved on.
It was funny, yeah, because I hadn't planned to go back to the TT in 92, I really hadn't. I've got this Ducati, I knew I was a top short circuit rider in the World Championships. I knew that from 91, and I had to go and kind of buy my own bike to run my own team to prove that, you know. But this thing was proving to cost a lot of money to run this bike. And the TT thing in 92 came about as a last minute thing, really. The funny thing was, though, if a lot of people remember this, but Steve Hislop was supposed to ride the bike I rode at the TT, the Loctite Yamaha. Steve rode for Yamaha at the beginning of 92. I don't know, he fell out with the Yamaha team, he couldn't get on with the Yamaha, whatever it was, I don't know now. But he rode for Yamaha in the first round of the British Championships, or the first few internationals, where it was, and he said, I'm not riding this bike, I don't like it. Because he did that, he couldn't ride for Yamaha at the TT. And the next thing, he turned up on a Kawasaki at Brands Hatch and did really well. I think he was second or third behind John Reynolds on the Kawasaki, so I really like the bike, it's great. Okay, no problems. I think I might be doing TT on a Norton. Oh, all right, good luck with that one. Yeah, it's fast, hell of a fast bike, you know.
I had said to him at some stage previously, if ever he wanted to have a crack on the Norton, we'd obviously love to have him.
No one saw it coming because no one in their right mind thought the Norton could win a TT. We had a very fast motorbike, but you know, and it could blast past standard 750s in a straight line, but for the TT, really? Really? No, it was a totally unrefined, blunt instrument of a motorcycle.
So the next thing is I get a phone call from Yamaha, would you be interested in doing TT? I thought, I don't know, would I, sort of thing, you know. Well, they'd be an offer, and I thought if I go to the tourist board and get the same kind of money off them, I think it was about £6,000 or £7,000, something like that. And the same off Yamaha, which was a lot of money back then, like 14 grand, which I needed the money to run the Ducati World Superbike campaign. So that's how it all came about, really. I ended up riding what should have been Steve's bike at the TT, the last minute, and he obviously did the Norton thing.
When Steve came along, really, that you couldn't have got second best. So we sat down and chatted, and I said to him, well, you raise what you can, and we'll do the rest from our end, and we'll see how we go. Obviously, Steve wanted at least to have a go on it. We went to Alton Park, and the test was a disaster, absolute disaster. And it was obvious that he was a little disappointed, I think, putting it mildly. We had been having serious problems still with fueling. It drank petrol like a drunk, and we had to keep reducing the amount of fuel that was going into the engine to get the mileage from the 24 litres. And the engine was so fragile and generated so much heat that you know, a minuscule part of a turn one way or another on a jet and the engine's destroyed. So, and I said, we had a chat afterwards, and I said, look, I know you're not going to have been happy with this. We are going to continue, and we'll get it right. You know me, and you know Chris, and you know the other mechanics. We'll do everything we can to make sure that it's a proper job. And if you like, we'll go to Germany on the first day available. You can ride the thing, and if it's good, fair enough, we'll carry on. If it isn't, then I don't mind if you withdraw or pull off at the end of the grandstand.
Fogarty was riding the Loctite Yamaha, which Rob McElnea had been racing on short circuits that year.
I went to Derby, went up and down a straight line, which was fine. It was going to be in it, you know. Then I did the first practice laps on Monday. I couldn't. It was all over the place. Couldn't ride it. Its suspension's terrible. It's just out of control. You put a harder rear spring in, maybe the fork something. Well, it's just worse. I couldn't even. I felt like turning it back at Quarter Bridge and coming back around that bad. But I did a lap. We'd gone the wrong way a few times with the setting, and then I went out Friday morning on it, the last session before the first big race on Saturday. I went out on the bike, felt great, felt loads better. I did 120 mile an hour on the Friday morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was back in those days. Thought, I'm right, yeah, ready for the race, can win this, you know. So that was it, yeah, the first two back race came. And straight away I got signals +1, +2, and you know I was leading the race by a country mile, to be fair. I think it was Philip McElnea I was dicey with. I was getting used to the bike all the time, but come to the mountain, I pulled 10 seconds every lap on Philip. So it was like, I think I was leading by 35 seconds on the 5th lap. So I was cruising, you know. And the gearbox went at the end of the 5th lap, the bungalow, it just broke. I was absolutely gutted, heartbroken, you know. It would have stopped Honda winning 10 in a row. And Steve, I think, had a few issues with the cooling of the bike, I remember rightly, with the mudguard and stuff on some of the laps on the Norton. So, yeah, and that was it. That was how that first race went. I was just gutted that I was robbed of victory when it was there, you know.
Hizzy and Foggy both obviously thought they should have won that race, but I got it.
And then a checkered flag that will make Phil McElnea a winner on the Isle of Man.
Well, I remember the Norton being overheated in the first race. I remember Fogarty leading it by a mile, his gearbox broke. Then they ran this Norton out of mudguard, front mudguard, and made some scoops to try and keep it a bit cooler, like prehistoric scoops. I think they were they were margarine tubs or something taped on the side.
Well, they were so unpredictable that you really couldn't. It wouldn't have been worth putting your money on it, because I mean, the temperature had gone 5 or 6 degrees one way, or the humidity had changed. You just couldn't say. But we thought we had the very best chance, and particularly after the Formula One race, where in spite of the handling of the bike, it had made good times. He'd had a good race. He was feeling confident, which was probably the most important part of tuning a bike up.
But yeah, the CDTT came, obviously, and the fastest two guys around there, myself and Steve, hadn't won a race, which is bizarre, really. So it was, something was going to happen, wasn't it?
Yes, it was beautiful. Well, I say beautiful, it was hot, and hot we didn't really want. Following the F1 race and the overheating problem, I put some wicker strips on the fairings to try and create more drag through the radiators and bring the temperatures down. But again, because of the frailty of the engine, we really would have preferred it to be about 10 degrees cooler. Exhaust temperatures on that Norton were about 1100 degrees centigrade. Now the average four-stroke is 800, 850. If it had been a night race, you could see the exhaust pipes burning, and that was really our main worry, had we got the fueling right. And it was a balance between running it too rich and running out of fuel, or too lean and seizing up.
Lots of hype because this was Steve Hislop, and he'd won on the RVF the year before. You have to remember that in '91, the RVFs with Foggy and Hislop on board were in my opinion, they were the finest bikes ever to go around the TT course. Nothing has been so special, so trick, so exotic since or before. And I'm sort of including the Honda 6 in all that.
Everything was perfect. You know, the cloud, the skies were clear. You know, the crowds were there. The heat was up. You know, this was the perfect setting for what I thought was going to be the race of my life.
Imagine a place shrouded by mystery, a sea-bound kingdom with a rich history that echoes through the ages, a melting pot of character and taste where true heroes exist and sea monsters bask in the shallows. Landscapes carved from pure imagination and magical vistas of the 7 kingdoms, a world of tangled trees and twisty trails, a place where legends are Manx made. Isle of Man, the extraordinary story.
It's the senior TT race of 1992, and the Isle of Man is about to witness motorcycle racing history.
Steve Hislop, second in every race bar one, has one last chance today. And this is the race which could put his name and Norton's into the history books.
Two great riders, two different riders. You know, Foggy was a nut job. You know, determination and you know, that's what he was full of. You know, Steve was more meticulous and knew what he wanted and had that ultimate natural ability. You know, where Foggy sort of pushed it to happen. You know.
You know, we've done everything we can, but we do know that on a course of 37.5 miles, there are an awful lot of things that can happen which are completely outside our control, which is the same for everybody, but it plays on your mind. As anybody who's been in charge of a big team with responsibility going to the Isle of Man will know, it starts churning your stomach about the beginning of April.
Flag poised, ready. At 10-second intervals they go. Joey Dunlop, number 3.
Joey's one of my heroes, but then Joey Dunlop in the late 70s, early in 80s was unbelievable. You can't get near the guy who was the best. You know, he's king of the mountain still, in my opinion. For he might have wins it out, but I'm saying at this point now in my career, how fast I was, and you know, and Steve Hislop sort of thing. It's, you know, once 89 arrived, me, him, maybe Brian Morrison, Dave Leach, we were the new kind of fast guys at the TT. Joey was, I don't know how old Joey was, but you know, I've got nothing but respect for him. But I knew that he wouldn't trouble me at all in the race. I've got to be honest about that. In 1992, you know, he'd only come back from a serious injury, I think, in 89.
At number 4, Carl Fogarty, Yamaha's hot favourite. Behind him in the line, Steve Hislop waits his turn. 1 minute and 10 seconds past 10. Big Jeffries and the Honda leave the line.
I finished 4th in every race. Can you imagine how sickening that was? Having been on the rostrum most years from about 87. And then in the 92 year, I was 4th in the Formula 1, 4th in the 400 race, 4th in the 600 race. So I really thought I would be in with a chance of being on the rostrum. Winning, you know, you're competing against Carl Fogarty and Steve Hislop. They were the finest TT riders around at the time. Philip McCallum was up and coming. Joey was still around, and of course Robert Dunlop on the other Norton. So there were some terrific riders.
Even Philip McCallum was a good rider, good, hard, strong rider. But you know, he's maybe some would say a bit mad, but he wasn't scared of anything, Philip. But again, because his short circuit kind of ability wasn't good at all. So a lot of that circuit, I could ride like a short circuit, certainly a mountain section. You know, maybe Philip could hang on to me a little bit right up to like Ramsey, but I pulled 10 seconds on him over the mountain, you know.
Foggy is different. We had a good relationship as well with Foggy. We still have banter today when we meet up about it. You know, Foggy was more arrogant. You know, Foggy would tell you what he's going to do. You know, Hizzy and I would sort of just win and say nothing, but Foggy would go to win and he would tell you, you know, and he was a determined, aggressive rider, hence he's, you know, multi-world champion. And but no, another great guy. You know, I believe when I needed help before, Foggy helped me, and didn't like it when you beat him. You know, the Northwest and TT was one of those places, but no, I've nothing bad to say about Foggy either.
At the start line, the moment has come for Steve Hislop. And after just 10 miles, Fogarty's already ahead of Joey Dunlop, who was up until 3 a.m. sorting out last-minute problems on the Honda.
You know, from about halfway around the first lap, we thought, well, now things seem to be going well for us, touch wood. Subsequently, we found out that the bike was feeling a lot better as far as Steve was concerned. The temperature was down, and he realised that, you know, he could use the full power of the bike. He got more used to it because of the 6 laps he'd done in the first Superbike race plus the practice.
Coming off Cronky Vody, McCallan's already being pressed hard by the flying Norton of Robert Dunlop, joint leader with Carl Fogarty. He's half a mile from Belough Bridge at Balacry.
You know, I remember starting off, and I remember, I don't even think it was far out the road, I seen the temperature gauge starting going up. And I thought, there's different sections of the course where, you know, you're maybe closed in, temperature gauge goes up a little bit, then when you get in the open space it drops down again, and this thing went up to 80, 85, 90, it went up to the full of the clock, and my heart sank. It was just, someone has taken my prize away.
I mean, Foggy was the one we were racing against. You know, McCallum was this Irishman who came over occasionally and did quite well, but Foggy was the one we wanted to beat.
Robert at Balacry's in front of McCallum, but the Honda will not be dropped, and Gable gets the wobbles. Ian Locker behind takes over Steve Hazlitt's entry, and coming out of Ramsey onto the mountain, Carl Fogarty has a lead of 2 seconds over Steve Hislop.
So I was that confident then, because I was so far in front in the first Subaru race that I'm going to win this. If the bike keeps going, I'm going to win the race. That's me done, you know. So that was the way I felt, and so the first signal board came out, I think P1 plus 1. Then it went to P1 plus nothing. Oh, what the hell's this? And P1 plus 1 again. I led at the end of the first lap, and then I hadn't pulled my usual 10 seconds over the mountain on the road, what I call the road circuit guys, like, you know, Joey and Robert and Philip McCallum. And I thought, it's got to be Hislop, this, you know. Only you can run around here as fast as me. When, I mean, my bike was working good, it really was. It wasn't the fastest thing in the world, far from it. You know, the Norton was a missile, but he's got, you know, the fastest bike, or one of the fastest riders, in my opinion, ever around the TT, one of the best ever. It's going to be hard to beat, and I just thought, it's got to be him. I'm in for that later on now, so. It crossed my mind it could be Philip McCallum a little bit early on, because I mean, no disrespect to Philip, he's a good rider, but he wasn't in the same class as me and Steve on the TT or any circuit, to be fair. It must have been the end of the second lap, because I would have been told in the pit stop, it's Steve. I thought, oh God, on the Norton, then I've got to have a problem here, because this thing accelerates and top speed's like 15, I think it was over 50 miles faster than mine through a speed trap, you know. So when you've got them sort of stats you're up against, again, with a talent like he is round there, he was unbelievable round there. He was pinpoint accurate round there with Steve. He really was. Then I thought, I'm in for a hell of a battle here now.
And up over Aggo's leap. We have to wait 2 minutes for Steve Hislop to come through the start line before we know a time. Fogarty will be 5 miles into the course before he knows how he's doing, so he must press on. Robert Dunlop leads Phil McCallum through Bray Hill, and he may be second or third depending on Hislop's lap time. Foggy's leaving Braddon for Union Mills, and here is the Norton, second place, 1 second down, flying out of Bray Hill.
I would say the excitement was building, because it was obviously close, or fairly close, right from the start.
Fogarty's at Quarry Bends, hanging on to a tiny lead, perhaps. At Bargarrow, Steve Hislop knows what Fogarty doesn't. The gap between them is just 1 second.
I think I was at Rencullen on the way you can't sit anymore, where you come over the top of it. The second bit though, I don't know what to call it, is it Birkin? No. Yeah, there's a first jump and it goes right, then left, and over that one there. Me and the missus had the legs over the bank in there and watched it there. And yeah, it was a proper ding-dong battle, wasn't it?
By Ramsey, Hislop has edged into the lead. Fogarty knows it now as he comes out onto the fastest part of the course.
I really don't think it struggled anywhere in the senior race. It excelled on the mountain, the speed, obviously, because it was immensely quick. You know, it was doing 200 miles an hour at the northwest long before anybody else got near that. Acceleration from the slower corners, of which there aren't that many, was obviously not as good as the modern day four-strokes, but hence the difference in the lap speed. But I think Steve said it was a nice bike to ride in the end.
Robert Dunlop's in front on the road, third on corrected time, but Fogarty's already going downhill. At the bungalow, though, Steve Hislop on the White Norton is race leader, still climbing up Halewood's rise. Fogarty into the pits for fuel and perhaps a rear tyre. His lap time and time in the pits are measured from when he sets his foot down in the box.
He stayed like +1 around that. I think I led at the end of the second lap as well, if I remember rightly. I wasn't really aware of any problems knowing Haddo didn't have, to be fair. I really didn't. All I knew it was this thing is the fastest thing in the world, and if he rides it right, then I'm going to, you know, even me, the way I ride and the way I was riding, I'm going to struggle to beat him, you know.
And Fogarty exits, 27 seconds in the pits, a fast turnaround, fuel and a quick wipe at the visor. The rear tyre is OK. Robert Dunlop comes into the pits, no sign of overheating for the Norton on this hot day, but still that question mark is there. But Fogarty's back on with the programme while the pit stops continue.
We knew we had a good pit crew, and everything was right with the equipment as much as we could get it there. The first pit stop came up and everything seemed to go quite well. Because of the heat, you've got to be very careful what you're actually doing, spilling fuel, that sort of thing. The power has quite an effect on the tyres. You know, we're concerned that obviously that we hadn't done a before this first Superbike race, we hadn't actually, I don't think we'd completed 6 laps at any sort of sensible speed. So again, there were quite a lot of unknowns. You've got to check the chain, which again is red hot. Fueling, that's fairly simple. Tyre changes, again, that's fairly simple.
To pits, and with a tiny 2-second lead, the Norton team changed the back tyre. In a stop lasting 33 seconds, the lead was lost and Steve Hislop went down into 2nd place. Fogarty's already at Bergamo, 12 miles up the road, and in the pits, Joey Dunlop retires, all chances of a record win gone. Phil McElnea definitely out now.
I believe I came into the pits, we checked, I told the boys what was wrong. We were hoping sometimes that, you know, if there's plenty of wind and there's little water there, we can get enough to keep going, but there wasn't. You know, this bike just, temperature gauge went off the clock and it's pulled in.
And only Carl Fogarty stands between the Norton riders and their slot in the record books.
That was another couple of boxes ticked, because McElnea was, I think, I said to you, was one of our rated riders. Joey, not so much at that time. The other thing, of course, was I knew pretty well what they were riding and how they were going to perform, whereas they didn't know how ours were going to perform, which helped. That sort of thing helps to sort of settle the nerves a bit.
And it's a lap record which a year ago never looked like being approached again unless the RVFs return. But we've already been within a couple of seconds of it, and we haven't seen a full flying lap yet. This could be the fastest lap on record if the Norton doesn't seize and if the Yamaha gearbox holds up.
The year is 1992 and the senior TT race between Steve Hislop and Carl Fogarty has reached fever pitch.
Fogarty's away and over the mountain, pushing hard because he knows that the White Norton is reeling him in again, and the lead from the pit stops had halved by the time he reached Ramsey, and that the Norton will fly across the mountain.
The bungalow, I remember now, the bungalow, the second gear was a little bit low there. He was revving a bit going in, so I think maybe in the senior, I went to third gear with a bit coming out sort of thing, you know, but I just wanted to save the gearbox.
Fogarty, Hislop, Dunlop and Jeffries, that's the order, first to fourth as the leaders come streaming over the mountain on their third lap. Robert Dunlop, third on the timesheets, ahead on the road, but the White Norton closing from behind. Fogarty at the Craig, into circuit racing mode, scratching very fast across the mountain. The battle almost halfway over, but this one isn't as easy as the Formula One, and there's no sign here of that massive 40-second lead, and here's the reason why.
The bike was fast. It was really, really fast and annoying. I mean, I'll take away from Steve. You still got to ride the thing, you know, but, you know, I mean, I was fast over the mountain. I really was. I've had battles with Steve on the Super Sport 400s. I beat him in the 750 production race in 1989. And he knew I was fast over the mountain. Me, it's short circuit. He was faster than me, I think, from start to finish down towards Baloff. I would give him that advantage. From Baloff to Ramsey. Maybe me, I don't know, very even over the mountain. I would pull on him, no question. But for him to pull on me, the bike was incredibly fast. I mean, there's no way he went through by trap 190. I think I went through 168 or something. It was crazy, to be honest. It really was.
The start of lap 4 as they pass the halfway mark, and Fogarty knows that Norton is close behind, despite the much faster Yamaha pit stop. Still coming down off the mountain, Steve Hislop, and because he's a couple of minutes behind on the road, nobody really knows how close it is. Following Nick Jeffries out of Brayhill, Robert Dunlop is third, 30 seconds behind the battle for the lead.
And Robert again was good on the little 125 250s. Not, you know, you can't. Fantastic ride on them little bikes. On the big bikes, no, nowhere near as sort of level me and Steve were on that kind of circuit, or any circuit, to be fair, you know, to be honest.
Fogarty is squirting past them, still flying on this lap, trying to maintain a lead. Here he is at Ramsey Hairpin, and the signboards now tell him that he is chasing the White Norton. Across the mountain, Fogarty gets his head down and starts to chase hard. In the pits at the end of lap 4, Steve Hislop has opened up an 8-second gap on Carl Fogarty.
I remember coming to the pits, Phil from Dunlop, and he said, the tyre's fine, it's fine, don't change it. So I think I pulled some time back there with Steve, because Steve, obviously with the Norton, we've been so fast, he was using more fuel, so I think his tank, maybe with a double size amount, so he took longer to fill up. His pit stop was definitely longer than mine, all they were, so I pulled some time back there. So that, again, that gave me that second win.
No rear tyre, Fogarty gets away after another perfect 27-second pit stop.
When we came in for the second stop, we looked at the tyre at the end of the first stop, which we changed. We looked at the tyre and thought, well, that's pretty good. It would have done 4 laps. And I've an idea that when it stopped, we looked at it quickly and we couldn't see anything wrong with it, so we decided to leave it. Michelin guy said we ought to change it. And I said to him, if we lose this race because we've changed that tyre and we don't need to, I'll kill you. One of the lads had trouble getting the petrol cap in, and I think you can hear me on the film shouting, "Don't panic, Mr. Mannering," or something like that. And of course, luckily the cap went straight in and he was off.
Don't panic, slow down, that's it. That's Barry.
By Balacrane, 7 miles into the course, Fogarty had gained a 3-second lead. The pendulum was swinging back in Yamaha's direction once again.
I'll be honest, I got a little bit tired. I pushed really hard in the first couple of laps. I couldn't break him, couldn't get away. +1, +0. And then I think the 4th or 5th lap, I think it was maybe the 3rd or 4th lap, I just struggled. I thought, oh, I've gone here, I'm probably struggling here, you know. And I kind of got a second win and pushed hard the 5th and 6th laps, you know.
And behind comes the White Norton, quivering under brakes for the right-hander at Balacrane, charging hard to catch up with Carl Fogarty once again.
About 3/4 of the way through the 5th lap, when things were going which way and the other, Yamahas tend to, when they get hot, as with the Hondas, they tend to slow up slightly. When the Norton gets hot, it stops. But it doesn't slow down until that point. So I felt that as we got that far, that things should be good with the machine. And so that's when I as I say, I changed from race team to fan and started listening to the commentary and getting excited, as did everybody else.
Coming into Ramsey, 17 miles up the road, Fogarty doesn't yet know what Hislop has done between the hedges and the stone walls, through Handleys, Kirkmichael, Wrencullen and Belough, fast through quarry bends, touching 185 miles an hour in places, faster than a Grand Prix bike. And he relentlessly closes that gap between Glen Helen and Ramsey. In just 14 miles, Steve Hislop has pulled up 7 seconds, passing Fogarty for the lead and closing with Robert Dunlop and Nick Jeffries on the road.
By that time the gaps had started to shorten and they were switching. Everything was done and it was down to the two riders, the two machines. And it was obviously going to be very, very close, and nobody would be able to tell really until the last trip down Crutchley Road what the result was going to be. We had a sneaking suspicion, but with the past record of those bikes, nobody was certain until they crossed the line.
Across Snaefell, Fogarty once again struggled with bike trouble. The exhaust was blowing and the Yamaha was going flat on him. He was losing that vital performance edge in a race that was heading towards record-breaking speeds. He just wasn't quite as fast as he had been on the opening laps.
The clock had bounced out once. I remember putting it back in. None of the clocks were working. The screen had broke. I can't remember what laps this. I just remember the exhaust going on the last lap. But there's fluid everywhere, bits of fluid everywhere. I think it was brake light fluid, or the forks have seemed bumped. Everything, I didn't know what was going wrong. I just knew there was no clocks working, and there's bits of fluid everywhere, I knew, and I must have thought it's not oil, because I'd smell it and I'd probably be off now, It was coming from like the brake reservoir at the top, There's a bit of forks oil around the top of forks. I remember seeing that. And during the race, I wasn't really worried to drop into pieces. I just worried that the clocks weren't working, there were bits of spray of oil everywhere, and the screen was broke. That's all I was aware of. That wasn't really a big issue. And the exhaust blow on the last lap, that wasn't not really a big issue, was it really,
Steve Hislop on the Norton, slightly slower than he had been as well, but quicker than the Yamaha, charging again over Snaefell.
Now is the time to change things for the better by relocating to the Isle of Man. With hundreds of opportunities waiting, you can let your career flourish along with your quality of life, where accountancy, healthcare, teaching, software development and engineering are just a few of the occupations that are in high demand. You'll have plenty of space to thrive on our amazing island. The Isle of Opportunity, where your dream life is real life. With over 200 flights per week and an island that is truly connected in more ways than one, this is the Isle of Man. Stop thinking maybe one day. Make one day today. Find a better life at locate.in.
It's the senior TT race of 1992, and the battle for the lead couldn't be any closer.
As Fogarty roars through Bray Hill, Steve Hislop is just coming down from the mountain, but the indications are that he leads this race by 4 or 5 seconds from Carl Fogarty. 6.4. That was the gap at the start line as Hislop hammers Bray Hill on the final lap.
It was the last lap decider with changes, which doesn't happen often, because by then normally somebody has got the situation under control, has got a lead that is big enough for him to manage on the racetrack. Not then, not that time.
Fogarty too, giving it everything on this last high-speed lap. And going into Ramsey, Carl Fogarty on a very fast lap. The Yamaha man breaking records measured point to point. But the vital time is grandstand to grandstand. Fogarty out of Ramsey, coming in the other side. The White Norton is charging. Hislop breaking records too. And over the mountain, Carl Fogarty is fast again, even with a bike that's gone off song.
You know, I got the last pit board minus 9 seconds. I thought, I can't pull this back now. I pushed hard over the mountain. Again, on a bike that wouldn't have been as fast as over the mountain. I must have been going quick, so I pulled 5 seconds back.
And there's the board that tells him he has to try harder, must ride faster if he can.
I enjoyed that. I used to love that, mate. You couldn't wait to get to the next board to see where you were, you know. I remember the first board popped out. I don't even I can't remember who it was. It was something to do with the Yamaha team I was with. I can't remember who was signalling, but it was, he kind of bottomed down to fast sort of double left before you go down to Kurt Michael. There's a board just pops out of the bushes there, P1 plus 1, like, oh, nearly at the bloody board, you know. So it's a strange place to signal me, but I always remember it popping out this bush there, you know. Because your eyes are looking at it anyway as you come out, this sort of right, fast double left-hander, sorry, yeah.
Steve sorted his own boards. We provided an extra one at Governor's Dip just to tell him when he was to stop for fuel, just in case. It's something I've always done, in fact, with all the riders.
Crossed in mind a few times now, thinking, hang on a minute, I'm not sure I was due aboard there, so this might be Steve Hislop fan or a Joey fan that's trying to slow me down or something, I don't know, but I knew my dad would be at the gooseneck. He was right in the gooseneck, and my dad was unbelievable. He's standing out far Arctic Road that I had to swerve to miss him, sort of thing, you know. But it's good to get them boards. You're looking forward to getting that board. It feels really good when it says, when it's gone up +5 or something, +10. And it's like gone down to minus. I'm like, oh, gutted, you know, but it didn't happen very often, the minuses. I did get tired, I think, during the race a little bit. I think about 4th, 5th lap. Then I pushed really hard on 6th lap, just maybe trying to make the Norton break or something, you know. They had to go with me. And I pulled I mean, my bike was falling apart as well, like you wouldn't believe. There were no clocks working, there were bits of spray of oil everywhere, the screen was broke, there's all sorts wrong with it. On the last lap, the exhaust blew, I remember it making a right noise coming to Parliament Square. I thought, like, this thing's unbelievable. And I remember thinking, I couldn't wait to get off the bike, because I'm accelerating and up towards like the gooseneck, it's like making a right noise. I thought, oh God, the faster I go on this thing, the quicker I can get off it, you know. She's probably not the wisest thing to be thinking on the most dangerous circuit in the world when this thing's falling apart around me, you know, it really was. But it did feel good to ride. It felt mint to ride. Suspension had gone, but it was like, I could feel what it was doing. I think there's a few shots of me maybe coming out of bedstead and whatnot, and things all over the place. But I knew what I was doing. It felt really good, even though nothing was working on it, you know. Everything was broke on it.
And he is trying hard. Bedstead coming out of signpost, a mile to go, and Fogarty absolutely on the limit. Steve Hislop's ahead on time, behind on the road. Fogarty will have to wait 3 minutes at the finish before he knows whether he has won or lost.
All we could do was listen to the countdown. And I had confidence that Steve was going to make it, because I knew that the gap he'd had at the previous time check was, he had a little bit in hand, and he wasn't going a lot slower than Foggy. But you know, you're never certain until the flag drops.
The bike was, I don't know, it kept going. He did the 6 laps and kept going. He wouldn't have done another lap, no question. But, you know, would Steve's done another lap? I don't know.
The checkered flag for Carl Fogarty, and he smashes the lap record by 3 seconds. But is he the winner?
He's had a hell of a weight. I'm number 4, he's number 19.
Looking up the road, looking for the helmets, and sort of when he should have come, seeing a helmet coming, and was it him, or is it the pink elephant?
Or is it Hislop? The White Norton charges out of signpost, and Bedstead still going flat out.
It's definitely the longest 2 minutes I've ever spent, and I suspect there were 6 other guys in the pit lane besides me that were feeling exactly the same. And sort of the relief when you see, well, he is there, and the countdown is going on in the background because you can still hear it above all, and the yelling from behind us in the pits. People were screaming.
And it's counting now, it's 10, 9, 8, and I looked, I'm thinking, I might.
Steve Hislop, and it's history. A win for Hislop and a win for Norton.
Here he is off.
When he did come, and as I say, the countdown, and he crossed the line, that was it.
I was pushing hard, and it was a great race. It really was, to be part of history. And now I look back on it, and yeah, he beat me. I'd have been fine with that, to be honest. I still was fine with it, because we had this thing about being the fastest guy. I always wanted to be the fastest guy and be at the TT. I wanted the lap record. It goes back to even in 1990 when I beat him in both races. He'd come in and change the brakes or something, went back out again and brought that record again, just shadow my day a little bit. He was like that. Me and Steve, we were battling around there. I'm thinking to myself, I might have lap record, it wasn't until we're on the roster, and they said, but the new outright lap record has gone to Carl Fogarty, and Steve's face dropped, I was like, yes, get in there, as good as he was. But we both went home happy, I guess. It was all good, really. I think we both, deserved a few beers that night, and both kind of happy with how it ended, really. My only thing that made me slightly upset about the whole thing was if I just won that first Superbike race, having led it by miles, 30, 40 seconds in front with a lap to go, that was the only thing that just took the shine off it for me, because that was a race win for TT I'd have had. And finishing second behind Steve in the senior TTs, he's pretty special anyway, because he was so good round there and set the lap record with it, and I would have been very, very happy. Instead, I was just very happy.
One of the truly great TTs. And it's quite difficult to put into words now, these years on, 20-odd years on, just what a jaw-dropping shock it was for that motorcycle to win in the Isle of Man. Obviously nobody, Steve Hislop won, yes of course, but to win on that motorcycle, which physically must have been hellish to ride. It must have been hard work, to put it mildly, to drag that thing.
It was so fragile, the thing, and when you put it all together with a new chassis, a new team, those sort of things really don't happen. But in that case, it did. And there were about, 100,000 people around the track who were very pleased it did.
I mean, after, when we looked at the bike after, and like I said, some of the sprocket bolts had sheared off, and the rear brake arm was completely bent up. I don't know how that happened. It wasn't me. I don't know, it's just that part. But there was all sorts bent on it. I think 2 of the sprocket bolts had sheared off after. He shut the bike after a few bits fell off it as well. It really was. I wish somebody had just left that bike as it was now and then stuck it in a museum, but that bike was used the week after, stripped down and used for Rob Mack for British Superbikes or something. It's a shame really, but yeah, it was a great bike to ride. We had trouble in the practice week trying to get it right, but got it right for the race. Lovely to ride. It wasn't the fastest thing in the world. It wasn't in the top 8 through the speed trap at all at any point, I don't think, for all the speed trap times. But it was really good to ride. I could ride it really hard, as you saw. But when you're giving so much speed advantage away to somebody as talented as Steve is, on a bike as fast as that, then it was always going to be very difficult to win the race, really.
From the point of view of my staff, I was so thrilled for them because, as I say, they had worked so hard and very trying circumstances. As you know, Norton's finances were in difficulties, and there were times when mechanics weren't paid. Chris Mayhew, Chris Pike, Ray Corbett, Dave Evans back at the workshop all deserve far more than they ever got from the race win. When we got back to Shenstone, the boys on the factory floor were thrilled to bits. We got a round of applause. The only question I got from the managing director then was the fact that the pit looked a bit untidy at the second pit stop because there were bits of paper everywhere. And that really summed up the management's attitude to the whole thing, that they just...
You're thrown lots of things at you, thrown at you and your machine and the whole thing during that week, 2 weeks, the Isle of Man, it's hard work, but to come away from there and come away with a lap record, which stood for 7 years, which is something, you know, I'm very proud of. Not many people can say they're going to break the Isle of Man TT lap record in the same year they win a World Superbike Championship race. It doesn't happen anymore. It never happened again. You know, it wasn't probably until years later, really, that people said that's the best race of all time. I remember Agostini Hillwood and others, and I thought, oh, it's nice that it's mentioned, that people think it's that good it can be in the top 5 or top 10 or whatever. We'll get goosebumps talking about it now. Yeah, I'm proud of that. Steve was a brilliant rider around there, and you know, I was pretty good. So we, you know, pushed really hard. I love the place, still do. I'll never have a bad word said against it. You know, that's how much it means to me as you know, a human being, as a person who's kind of lived and been brought up around it since I was a kid.
He knew it would be good if he could win the TT on a British bike, but he said to me several times after that he didn't realise just what it would mean. You know, forevermore he's known as the man who won the TT on a British bike the first time for 35 years.
I was the first Honda home in 4th place.
Welcome back to another TT Lock-In Live on what should have been Senior TT Race Day. But to be fair, looking at the weather, I don't think we would have had one anyway. Alongside me, as ever, 2009 Senior TT winner, it's, of course, Steve Plater. Steve, last night's TT Lock-In, what happened with John McGuinness? I was looking forward to some banter between him and Michael, but we never got it in the end, did we?
No, you know, a good insight in all fairness, and apologies to all the fans that were watching, of course, McGuinness. I think McGuinness was probably trying to pinch the neighbour's Wi-Fi again. That was a problem, but a great insight to Michael Rutter's, obviously, career at the TT. Still winning after his first time in 22 years ago. Something else.
Unbelievable. Right, we've just witnessed what is considered the greatest TT race of all time, and our first guest is part of that. He's also, you know, world superbike champion multiple times, and he also smashed the lap record during that 1992 race. It's, of course, my hero when I was growing up, Carl Fogarty.
Winner of the Formula One race can do the double. But Carl Fogarty will be out in front with a lap at 108.52 miles an hour. But there's the leader of the winner. Oh, Carl Fogarty had a lap in there and a half. Fogarty does the double, and isn't he pleased?
You don't get that anymore, do you? Racing in the wet around the TT. Carl Fogarty, welcome to the TT Lock-In Live. How are you doing, mate?
Good evening, mate. Yeah, good, thanks. All good.
Hey, Carl, how you doing, mate? How's lockdown been going? Flipping it looks like you've been maybe turning a bit flipping cuckoo, riding motocross as Homer Simpson and paddling pole action and dressing up as the Joker. What's happening?
Yeah, that's what 4 weeks of lockdown does to you, mate, to be honest. You know what? I mean, I can't complain. You know, we're living where I live in the country and that, and I plan to spend more time at home this year anyway. So, I mean, obviously the COVID-19 has put pace to that as well. So, you know, it's been fine. I've actually had the virus. I actually got that confirmed this morning, to be honest, funnily enough. I knew I had it back in March. So I was that bloody ill. My wife was really struggling with it, to be honest, with the breathing and stuff. It was touch and go whether I made the call at one point, you know, with the ambulance and that. But yeah, we had the antibody test yesterday, and the results come back today that we both had it, which we kind of knew anyway. So March wasn't so good, but the weather's been great for the last 2 months. It's been unbelievable. I've been outside doing loads of stuff, down the mountain bikes, motocross bikes, dressed up as a Joker, as you say, dressed up as Homer Simpson. Yeah, enjoying life, really. And that's the only way you can do it. But with the situation we're in, you've just got to accept it and kind of get on with it. And I know it's a lot easier for me with what I've got here, I guess, than it is for a lot of people who can't really get outside like I can, you know. So, but all good here, mate, all good. Cheers, anyway.
Good to hear. Good. Glad you're getting better. Right, let's get our next guest on. During that 1992 epic battle, this man was Carl's team manager. He's a TT rider, or he was TT rider and race winner at the TT, but he's best known for his antics around the GP circuit. It's Rob McElnea.
Filling in the Yamaha sandwich of Lawson and McElnea.
Those bikes are real handfuls to ride. Rob, welcome to the TT Lock-In Live. How are you doing, mate?
Pretty good. I was just waiting for a high side then. I was getting a bit nervous.
Hey, I want to talk to you about this whole hashtag Rob Mac Memories that's been going off on Twitter during lockdown. We've been getting some amazing stories coming out. Who's been getting involved in this?
Well, it's just I'm in Spain still, so we were locked down a week before anybody else, so I got bored pretty fast. And I'm not a big social media type of a guy, but my little boy got me going, and it was just a bit of fun. And I was hoping that a few more would jump in as it got. I started in 1982, so there weren't many old boys racing then, so I was waiting for it to get caught up a little bit, and then a few jumped in. So it's just trying to break the day up for everybody stuck at home, and it's had a great response. And I've really looked forward to the stories coming and the feedback and whatever. So it's been a good bit of fun.
Carl, 1992, you know, it was a busy year for you, World Superbike, World Endurance, and you said at the end of 91 after leaving the TT with Honda, you wouldn't be going back. How did it kind of come about to ride the Yamaha there?
Yeah, well, I said that in 1990 as well. I'd done the double, and that was it. It was, you know, that was me off to obviously the World Championship, short circuits, and my next dream that, you know, next part of my life that I was focused on really. Obviously I ended up going back doing that one-off race on the RVF. That was the opportunity to do that. But I shared the bike with Joey, so the race was a bit of a disaster. I misfired with the bike, so I kind of went back in 92 again. I hadn't planned to go back, and the cost of running the Ducati in World Superbike was costing me a fortune. And the opportunity came. I can't remember if it was Rob that approached me or someone from Yamaha did. I think originally Steve was supposed to ride that bike, the Loctite Yamaha, as far as I know. And I know he started the season off on the Yamaha, did Steve? And there was some fallout with the team he was with, if I'm correct. Can't remember, maybe Rob maybe remembers it more than me. I don't know. So Yamaha came to me and said, "Look, you know, we haven't got Steve on the bike now. Will you ride the bike?" And I thought, I agreed to deal with him, you know, which I was happy with, and then spoke to Tourist Board, Alaman, and got a bit more. And I thought, and I don't mind telling him, which was about 14 grand in total, which were then a lot of money back then. I wouldn't know what it equates to now, I don't know, but it went a lot of ways to pay for that World Superbike Ducati, you know, with the upkeep of that, really. So that's how that came about, really. So we kind of swapped bikes in some way. Steve had gone to the Norton, and I remember him staying at my house, actually, just before the TT. After everything had been agreed, he'd say, "I'm riding the Norton," and so I said, "Look, what?" And we both didn't really want to be around each other on the racetrack, number-wise. I'd kind of got in his head a little bit in 1990, and even in 89 in the production race, being set off behind him. He didn't like that. Then he did the same to me in 91, number 11 and number 8. I didn't like that, so I said, "Look, I'm going to go for number 4." And he said, "What's all right?" I said, "I'm going to go for number 19." I thought, "Yeah, that's quite a long way back." And so we kind of already spoke about what numbers were going to be to keep away from each other, and we're just down to the race, you know, which is, I guess, something nobody knew that really.
How was that for you, Rob? Obviously, he's riding the bike in, I think, British Championship, and you know, was it a last-minute deal with Carl to jump on it?
Yeah, it was a last-minute package put together with Yamaha, and I have to say, it's probably one of the worst weeks of my life, trying to put the whole thing together. And so it was my bike, and it was built for the short circuits. It was a bit more special than the year before. The Japanese had sent some parts, so I had a stiff swinging arm. It was built for short circuits, so it wasn't really the best bike. And Carl soon found that out when he got there. I mean, I think his first lap he came in, and I obviously can't say the obvious words what he said on live on TV, but it was fairly blue anyway. So, and I remember we ended up swapping the forks. I think we went back to standard forks, and it was so difficult to get feedback and change things. You know, it's like the TT, you get a lap and you got to guess stuff. So at one stage I was going to Ramsey with a couple of spanners and a couple of Allen keys and adjusting the suspension to get another crack at it over the mountain, just to try and save some time and just really trying to get something comfy for him. But ultimately it was foggy on the bike. That, you know, he wasn't interested in us saying, take it easy, short shift a little bit. You know, he wanted us to give him the bike and let him do how he rides his bike. He didn't want he wanted to try and compromise himself, and that's the way he rides his bikes, and that's why he's world champion. But at the TT, I think he realised after the senior when he should have won that one. I think I heard in his chat there that he was short shifting. He was pulling a bit of a taller gear around, trying to save it a little bit. And I think he learned that from the senior. I mean, that Yamaha is a fragile bike. They're a pretty fragile bike to take on the TT. And I know the Norton was an amazing thing, but that Norton was a weapon, and it handled beautiful. You know, so fair play to Foggy. Take it to Hizzy. I mean, you know what Hizzy's like at the mountain, and that I've raced those Nortons on the short circuits, and I know how quick they are. So, you know, Foggy took it to him. It was brilliant, but it was like, you know, it was one of those weeks where it was so stressful. My God, and the bike felt a bit, like he said at the end. The bike, and in the pit stops, he was coming to pit stops, and I was looking at the bike going, Jesus, and we're just trying to tart it up and hide things from the scrutineers and make sure they didn't see the end kind of hanging off and just get him out as quick as he could. And Foggy, you'll be right, just get on it. And by the end, we were just there. We were all saying a prayer on that last lap, I tell you. And then, and when he made it back, like he said, things were just dropping off it. I don't know how he kept his concentration, I have to say. Fair play.
I bet you, Carl, I bet you were just pleased to make it home. Was there any consolation in taking that lap record? Obviously, it stood all the way up until 1999, so you didn't get the victory, but, you know, ultimately you were the fastest guy around the TT at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing I wanted. I always dreamed of being the fastest guy around there. Winning the TT, but being the fastest guy around there, you know. And so that was great for me. I remember crossing the line and he announced that I broke the lap record. And then Steve had to come through, and I thought, oh, he's probably going to take a little bit more off it. But obviously I pulled 4 or 5 seconds back over the mountain on him and took that record. And it's funny, someone who said this to me recently, that, you know, that was the last time you raced on, obviously, the TT. And all the years then you went on to World Superbike and were winning World Superbike and winning world titles. You were still the fastest guy around the TT. And I never thought of it. For all the years I was in the 90s doing the short circuits, I still held that record on the short at the TT, which is something I'm really proud of, to be honest. But yeah, that bike was pretty good to ride by the time we got it to the first Superbike race. And that was probably the only disappointment for me for that weekend. Look, the whole 2 weeks, looking back at it now, was we didn't win that first Superbike race, and we had it in the bag. We were miles in front, 35 seconds, I think it was. Robertson, I think Robert might remember more. The gearbox went going into the bungalow on the 5th lap. Just have a lap to go. It would have stopped Honda winning 10 in a row. I remember Yamaha boss Andy Smith. He was in tears on the wall, and I was obviously absolutely devastated. You know, so if I'd have had that first Superbike win, and then the second, obviously in the senior behind Steve, on the unbelievable fast Norton as it was, and Steve being as good as he was, rather, he was phenomenal around there, really was. And that would have been the icing on the cake with a lap record and a win, but we just didn't get that win that first race, which we was cruelly robbed of, really.
Rob, He managed Hizzy at BSV, I think in '98, the big battle against McKenzie, and 2003 on the Virgin bike. What was he like compared to Carl as a rider at the Gold Wing?
Well, it's like, I was thinking about it today, and I said earlier that it's like putting Ricky Hickman Hatton against Chris Eubank or Hurricane Higgins against Steve Davis. It's just two different, complete characters. And we know we know how special Hizzy was. On his day, everything was right. If he's got all his dishes were clean and tidy, and his motorhome was tidy, it was unreal.
Yeah,
but one thing out of place, and he was wrong, and that was a total opposite with Carl. Carl would, as you saw on the bike, he could deal with it. The bike wasn't right; it was far from right, but he could make the bike work, and he would put up with it. Once the flag dropped, and he would deal with whatever he got. Hizzy, not the same type of guy at all, and that's probably why it took him a bit longer to get the Norton right and get him suited for him. And then once he got it right for him, Carl would admit that he's a proper special guy when you get him like that. But you can't put a season together with guys like that with respect. There's going to be weekends where it doesn't work, and you've got to make it work, and weekends where it's fantastic, and you've got to put a season together. You've got to be able to deal with all that. And at the TT, more than ever, you've got to be able to compromise and work out. You can't get a bike what works everywhere. You've got a bike what works 80% somewhere well, and deal with the rest of it. And we all saw the way Carl rode the bike there, and you've just got to compromise. So, it was a real special race, I have to say, and it was amazing to be part of that historic moment, I guess.
Talking about Rob, did you prefer being a rider at the TT or being a team manager? Which had less pressure?
God. Carl, what do you reckon? I mean, when you're riding, it's scary enough, and it's like Barry was saying, the season starts and you've got the TT in part of your schedule, and by the time you start racing in March, you're already thinking of the TT. It's a massive part of the year. But when you go, the whole build-up and the nervousness, but you're just looking after yourself, and you've got the blinkers on, and you're sewing your bike out. You're not looking at anybody else. You're not worried about anybody else. You're expecting everybody to build the bike for you. You trust people building everything correct and safe, and you just trust everybody and just do your own thing. When you're going as a team manager, especially with him, it's absolutely frightening. The bike, I knew it was my bike, so I knew the bike, and I knew the bike was built to a great spec and safe as houses. But you rattling it around those roads with foggy on it, pinning it, bouncing the valves, bouncing it off the curbs, I knew it was going to be fragile. And honestly, on the sidelines, like I say, it's probably the worst week of my whole racing career. In the end, I was so pleased that it was over, and we didn't win it, and we gave it a real good chance. But I was so happy that we got everybody home and everybody safe, and I didn't really want to do it ever again, to be fair, and I never did.
Carl, do you still make the pilgrimage over to the island?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of lost contact with it all, really, after that year, 92, and I was so focused on the short circuits and whatnot for the next 7-8 years, I guess. It wasn't until I got asked to go back for the 2007, for the Millennium. Obviously, Rob was there as well. We all the sort of winners and sort of legends of the sport were asked to go back for that, and it wasn't until I flew out there, and as I saw the Isle of Man, that I felt. Even now I get goosebumps talking about it. It's such an emotional place, is the Isle of Man. For me, anyway, it is. I kind of got brought up there as all my childhood memories are there at the TT. With my dad getting a week off school, 2 weeks off school as it was brilliant. I was in and out of trouble in the amusement arcades and whatnot, and so it was. I didn't realise how much I'd missed the place. And I've been back pretty much every single year since 2007. I've lost touch with the 90s. I couldn't tell you who won the senior TT in 95, 6, 7, or 8. I've no idea. I probably guess it might be Phil McElnea one or two of those years, but I haven't got a clue. I totally lost touch with it completely. And it wasn't until 07, and I went back over there. I thought, oh my God, I miss this place so much. It's such a special place to me. And like I said, every other year, I've managed to pretty much get back every year except one, I think.
Is that the same with you, Rob?
I was going to say, it's if you just think about what Carl's done in his career and where he's been around the world and the success he's had, and I had nothing like that. But I've again been around the world and ridden for the top teams, and the one thing what still sticks in our minds so clear is a TT. It's incredible. You know, you think about riding at Salzburg, and Carl thinks about winning his Superbike championship, but still, the place still puts hairs on the back of your neck standing up. It's mental. I mean, because it's such an amazing thing to try and do, something to go and try and master it. It's like I used to go with my dad and watch. We all grew up with it, and you used to sit on the banks, watching them all bikes bouncing through, and the sound and the atmosphere and the whole passion of it. And then to go and try and master it yourself, it just leaves something in there forever, and it's right at everything we've all done, and I'm sure Steve's the same. All the things he's done, it's right at the top of your memory bank, and it's still so clear, Amazing place.
Carl, I know it's not happening this year, of course, 2020, and we always see you there as a spectator these days. Who's your money going to be on for this year, mate, for the big bikes?
Well, it's probably the Hickey show, isn't it, really, now? He's the man. Probably the first time for a long, long time, a good short circuit rider has kind of made the transition come across. Probably did it right, spent a couple of years learning it, and then, and like Josh Brooks did, but he obviously missed a couple of years that I think he did. But yeah, Hickey, I mean, you get a good, always said the top short circuit guys go there. They're the best riders in the world. That's why they're, world champions on short circuits, but they won't go to the TT. They don't need to go to the TT. They did for obvious reasons, whereas I think I was at the back end of them guys, along with Rob, maybe just before me, that TT was still a big thing to do, even to get somewhere if it felt on short circuits in a way. So I was probably the last person, well, in fact, I was the last person to win the TT, win a World Superbike race. It probably never happened again, I guess. But no, it would have been, for me, Hickey and Harrison, those two with, Michael lurking just there, ready to pounce, I guess, if whatever deal he had sorted out. I don't even know what he had sorted out, to be fair. But it'd be hard to see anyone beating Hickey, if I'm honest.
Rob, same question to you, really, mate. It's a mind-blowing pace, of course, but did you have your eye on the same too?
Well, it's like Carl says, the guys who are sharp at the front end of the short circuit, they can go and ride the TT with respect, with a little bit in reserve. And I mean, it didn't look like Carl was saving much when we watched him there, but you do. When you ride at the level, if you can go win at Donington and run right up front, you can ride at the TT with it a little bit in reserve. And if you have to dig a bit deeper, you can. And you're just so sharp. And I mean, when I came back into the TT, I was in the middle of doing some Grand Prix, and I was qualifying on the front row at the Grand Prix, then going to the TT. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but it was a bit of a doddle. You were so sharp, honestly. You were just on the wire. And Carl would agree with me. He's running World Superbike races at the top of world level. Going riding on the road circuit is a completely different thing. And for sure, Hickey is getting close to the front of the short circuits now, and you just hone everything. Your mind is so sharp. Your feel level is so sharp that and the guys who can jump across. You get the regular guys and the Irish guys who do the road circuits and they're fast, but just that next step up, you really do need to come from short circuits. And I think Hickey's going to be the man for the next couple of years if he wants to do it.
Right, as you'd expect, we're getting loads of questions in from the public. We're going to get to those shortly. But first, Carl, I just wanted to touch on the Classic TT back in 2019 with the Hizzy celebrations, and you took part in that parade lap. What was that like?
Well, not very good for me. I got about 200 yards. Yeah, I was gutted, to be honest. The first Steve, obviously there was two I did. Obviously the main one, the Steve Hislop Memorial one. Yeah, the bike, as soon as I set off, it just water gushed out everywhere. And I pulled in. I actually wanted to carry on, but I thought, what am I doing? Just get a grip. Obviously, 20 years ago, I probably would have carried on. But now I thought, you know what? I strapped myself to death when I hit the bottom of Bray Hill and this water went everywhere. Tiptoed into Quarter Bridge, pulled up. There's water everywhere, but I couldn't really see where it was coming from. So I set off again. Just as I got up the revs, through the gears up towards Brad, and it's full of water again. So pulled in at at Union Mills, and that was it over. I was absolutely devastated, to be honest. It was meant to be a celebration of Steve, of my main rival around there, and I was the first one to break down, probably the most modern bike there, to be honest. So it was a bit of a disaster, really, for me.
Rob, what do you think to the pace now? You know, the last lap of the senior 2018, Hickey 135.4. It's something special.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some of the old boys watching who's been there, done that. I mean, I struggle a little bit with it because the track changes so much every year. I mean, so honestly, some places I go around now, unrecognisable from well, I don't even know in '92, but I remember Quarry Bends. You know, it's like third gear, places like that. So some of the lap times now are getting so fast, and so many of the guys can do it that I don't know. I mean, it's still amazing, and the bikes are all 220 horsepower now. So they take some riding, and it just, I don't know. It's hard. I'm a little bit stuck in the 80s, as you can tell, and some of the pace they do now, I don't know if it's got all getting. Some parts are so much faster. Brandish, you know, some of the 32nd or up windy corner. So it's hard to relate to years gone by, but it's still 135 mile an hour around an average round 37 miles with hairpins, and it's spectacular. But I don't know if it's a little bit crazy now.
Carl, 135.4. I think he was held up at least 4 times on that lap, and I think that if you put all the splits together, it's over 136 now. It's not bad, eh?
I'm fairly average in it, mate. Fairly average, that.
Rob, you'll have to... Sorry, Carl.
Sorry, guys, go on.
I was just going to say to Rob, I wanted to know about Rob's memories from the 1983 senior. I was only a few months old then, so I know nothing about it. Tell me.
Oh, God. You're struggling with 92.
You can't go that far back, no way.
No chance. Well, I can't really remember. I remember more the senior than the classic, because it was a crazy race, and with Joey and I, and I got my first pit signal was +1 or something pretty, and then the next one I was like -20, and he'd done something with his pit stops. I still can't really remember now, but I'm sure he skipped a pit stop trying to do me anyway. So it was all over. I was like -20 or 30 on the last lap, and I thought, and I was going pretty quick, and I thought if he's going that fast, he can have it. And but there was a pit stop, bit of a cock up. Anyway, so I came around the black box, and it was late on. Sun was dropping, and my visor was full of flies and misty. I could only just see through it, but I just saw this yellow helmet just sat on the bank. And I thought, you beauty, that'll do me. He gave me the thumbs up as I went past, and my God, I short shift that bike. I must have been about 40 miles an hour going over the mountain trying to bring that bike up. I was absolutely crapping myself. So that's a clear memory, and I thank Joey for missing his fuel stop that time.
You did the double though, didn't you, Robin? 1984, if I remember rightly. I was there watching.
84. Yeah, no, 84. Yeah. Well, that was my purple patch car. Your purple patch lasted about 6 years. Mine was about a month and a half. So I was in between Grand Prix. So that was the 500 guys were at. I came from Nürburgring, and the team drove back to the TT. The British team brought the XR69,000 there for the classic race, and I won the senior on the Wednesday. They drove back to Paul Ricard for the next Grand Prix, and I stayed for the classic, which I won. Yeah, got the double. It was such a lovely bike, that 1000cc Suzuki compared to that 500. That 500, it was just pretty scary. I mean, I don't know if you rode something like that car around there, but maybe an RVS were a bit like that. But it was just a really fine-tuned little horrible wheelie machine, aggressive little 500. It really took a bit of riding. So to jump on the 1000cc, the big diesel, it was such a joy to ride around. That was.
Carl, I was lucky enough to ride the White Charger, that Hislop's Norton at Derby at the Classic TT. Have you ever dabbled and had a blast around on one, whether it be racing or a parade?
No, I haven't actually. No. People who have rode them, I think I've spoke to over the years, like Jamie Whittam or Terry Ryman, said they're just a beautiful thing to ride. Really are. I mean, I used to hate the things. Used to do my head in, to be honest, because no disrespect to the guys who rode them in the British Championships, so they weren't really that good, in my opinion, like Steve Sprays and Trevor Nations. But the bikes are so fast. And when I was on the RC30 in like 1990, getting a bit past its sell-by date then, really. It was the same bike as 88, and they were just getting in the way all the time in the corners and this blast past you down the straights just to drive me nuts. I couldn't stand them, but he tried to sign me, did Barry, twice. I went down, they offered me pretty much double what Honda had offered me, but I was looking at the bigger picture, to be honest. I was looking at, with Honda, there's, World Superbike, the GPs, obviously that's the way I went, and ended up in World Superbike with Honda in 91 when the bike was bloody way past its sell-by then. The only thing I could measure myself on there was Fred Merkel, who was on the same bike and was double world champion. I managed to beat him throughout the year, really. So, but yeah, I did have my opportunities to sign for Norton, and as I'm getting absolutely blitzed down the straights by Robert Dunlop in 1990, I'm thinking, why didn't I sign for fucking Norton? I'm sorry. Sorry about that. The beer.
You're drinking your beer.
I think we were both in that race, Carl. And 1991 and to be fair, the JPS Nortons were fantastic for British racing, and Ron Aslan coming back to ride them, and it was a bit of a lull time, and they definitely give it a big injection. But flipping racing with them, what a nightmare! Honestly, you were tucking in, waiting for them to take his stickers off as he came past. I mean, they had their own lane at Snetterton. It was embarrassing.
I would have, to be honest. I mean, people have rode like James Whittam, because I've come from like the 250 high corner speed. That was my style. He goes, mate, you would have loved it. You would have loved it. It was like a two-stroke. You'd have been so fast mid corner on that thing. It was that kind of bike, like a 250 to ride. Really, I think you'd really enjoyed it. But no, I've never rode one. I couldn't get on one now with my knackered body and knees. No chance.
Rob, another question coming in from the public. What was it like to ride during essentially the heyday of 500cc racing? Do you feel lucky to have raced during that period?
Yeah, totally. And I think looking back, it was a really special time. And I think I'm not the same sort of animal as Carl, and I was a bit in awe of my teammates and the guys I was around, and sometimes it's not until you retire that you realise how special it was. But I actually realised there on Sunday mornings, and Swanson and Rainier lining up, and there's Lawson and Gardner and Spencer. I realised how special it was then, and I think maybe there's a few things why I didn't do so well, but that was probably one of them. That I was a bit too much respect. But it was a crazy time. I mean, the bikes were. Looking back now and just listening to them, they were proper frightening. But at the time, they were the best bikes you possibly could get. You were dreaming of getting, when I rode my old Suzuki around, I was dreaming of getting one of those Yamahas. When you look at them now, you think, Jesus Christ, they were mental. But at the time, they were the best things you could get. I know Carl had a couple of goes, and I wish he could have just somehow got a better deal or stayed on the 500s, because it would have been amazing to see what we could have had. But it was a fantastic time. I didn't spend that much time there, but the time I did spend, I totally loved every second of it. I've still got the funny fingers and the dodgy collarbone to prove that I survived the 500s. But it was an amazing time to be part of it all. Enjoyed every minute.
Carl, how far do you think you could have got in GPs on the ride bike?
Oh, all the way. I'd have won it easily. You know what?
Did anybody expect a different answer?
You know what? Yeah, I'd have challenged. I'd run up front. There's no question in my mind. No question in most people's. Had the Yamaha deal come off with Roberts, I don't know how close that was, to be honest. I was told at the end of the day, Marlborough didn't want me. I had a meeting with Kenny Roberts in Spain. I just won the world title for the second time in '95. I had a meeting with him there, and is it called Asklund? Skip whatever his name was. I can't remember his name now. About riding for him, and anyway, he didn't come off. They said Marlborough don't want you on the bike; they want an American. It just told me it was his son that was on the bike the year after, I think. So, you know what? And then I had a similar talk with Gary Taylor with the Suzuki. But yeah, the Yamaha would have suited me. That would have been. I mean, if you look at someone like your Cadaloras, Caparossis, Carlos Checkers, Biagis, they rode very, very similar to me. Very similar to me. They're no better than me. They rode like me, the high corner speed, 250 guys, you know. They all won Grand Prix and were up front, so I'd have been no different. I'd have been right up there. Whether I would have won the world title or not, I have no idea. It would be very disrespectful of me to say now, even though, yeah, of course I would have. You know, probably would have said that 20 years ago, but now I'd say, you know, to beat doing them kind of people over a full season, that would have been hard to beat him. He was very, very good. But would I have beaten him at Donington, the place, and Aston, place like that? Then for me, yeah, I would have done. But it didn't happen. My career took a different path. World Superbike was so big that the GPs are really suffering, and it didn't seem that important at that time to go there. All these riders coming to World Superbike from Grand Prix, like your Kaczynskis, people like that, you know, won Grand Prix, and you know, even like Simon Crayford, who couldn't win a race in World Superbikes, goes and wins a British Grand Prix. So it was a funny time really. The Superbike was so big that it didn't really seem that important. It only seemed important to me that I've not done it. When Cal won about 3 years ago, when he won that Grand Prix, I think I was an oldie at the time, and it came through that he won that. And I was like really pleased for him. And it said, oh, it's the first time a British guy's won a Grand Prix since Barrichello, and that really hit hard. And I felt that it's home. Then I thought he should have been saying since Carl Fogarty, you know what I mean? It might, you know, but it just didn't happen. And yeah, it would have been nice to have had a couple of years on the factory Yamaha. I think that would have been the best bike for me when I rode the privateer one at the Grand Prix. I was running fifth on it. Not standard one. You could buy over the counter. It was a lot of money back then, but you could still buy it. And next thing, I'm sliding on my backside due to some coolant. I think it got spilt from Kaczynski's bike, along with Kevin Swanson. I think Doug Chandler, 3 of us went down. And I had a 5th place in the bag on, you know, somebody else's bike. I just turned up on the wildcard. Then the year after, somebody else's bike. I missed most of practice. Second fastest when I went to bed Friday night. Believe it or not, I couldn't believe it. I thought, this thing's a pile of shit. I have no idea what gear I'm in. Second, first, third, it's just screaming all the time. So we'll just try and figure it out a little bit on Saturday morning, where you're going to go with the gearbox. And the first lap, I was looking around, looked back around, and things facing sideways and threw me off over the bars. I sided on the first lap. Couldn't get the bike running proper for the rest of the day. I dropped from 2nd fastest down to 5th fastest. So for the lineup on the grid, obviously, I think I was 5th fastest in qualifying on Sunday, but didn't know what to do. We had a guest on rear tyre, was waiting for a soft tyre, just left the gearbox as it was, and then got on with it really. And then I had trouble with the brakes in the race and the rear tyre. I held on to 3rd place. And then the thing started running out of fuel on the last lap. I thought, for God's sake. Then obviously running to the line, Neil came past, but it just kept misfiring and cutting out. But I'd done really, really well on these one-off rides, which was somebody else's bike. You know, 2 years on a bike that was mine, a Yamaha, I think I'd have been running up front and, winning races. Whether I won the championship or not, I have no idea. It would have been difficult.
Question coming in for you, Rob. Would you ever consider returning to the classic TT as a rider?
I do the Manx Trail. Yeah. The thought of trying to get in leathers, and I actually had a go on one of.
I've got that in your head now. Are you getting leathers?
I know. I don't think about it. I had to get myself covered in kick powder, trying to slide in, you know. But no, I can't. My knees are knackered, and I actually tried to have a go on one of the Suzuki chaps' classic bikes, but I couldn't even get on it. He had a seat pad about a foot high, so my knees would bend. But no, I'm not really interested in riding the bikes anymore. I did enjoy the whole classic thing, but I hated riding. I don't know. I just crap myself, and I can't ride fast, and I see James Whittam do wheelies everywhere and fucking still riding fast. I can't ride fast. If he gets a trials bike, I'll have a go with him. But I can't ride faster. But that classic weekend is a brilliant weekend, and what you've done and what Paul Phillips has done for the TT with all that is brilliant. And I think it needs to keep growing and be a big part of the festival and keep showcasing the TT like that. It's been brilliant.
Carl, Nick Jeffries said in the VT that the RVF Honda was probably the best bike that's ever been raced at the TT. What's your opinion?
Yeah, that was a hell of a weapon. That was. It's just a MotoGP bike, really. That's all it is. If you think about it, it's what would be now considered an early MotoGP bike. Their bikes were very special bikes. They never really came out of Japan. I was trying to ride one for years. Loved to get on. Even the 8-hour race, I won the world title for Honda in 88, 89, and 1990. Well, it was obviously not a world title then. But even when I went to Suzuka, they still wouldn't let me ride the bloody bike, and I was world champion. And it wasn't until 91 that when they brought the two over for the TT, and it was a last minute thing for me. Neil Tuxer just persuaded me somehow to come over and do the one race. It was stupid, really. If I had my time again, knowing what I know now, but think about it more, I probably won't do it, because I did pretty much 2 races in one weekend. One was at America, and then obviously the TT on the Saturday. I flew straight to America on the Sunday morning, I think it was, after that race with Steve on the first Superbike race, whatever it's called, TTF1 race, I guess, when the thing was misfiring all the time. And the funny thing about that race was, it's quite a famous race, really, with me and him on the road together. I pulled off at the Baloff Bridge at one point, because the thing cut out of me completely on second lap. And it fired back up again. So I pulled back out just as Steve came past. So then he's probably 30 seconds up on me then. So we were together for all that lap. Obviously, I can't remember what happened now. It was the second or third lap. But I remember passing over the mountain, got my head down. And as I came out of Brandish, because the bike was running fine most of the time, came out of Brandish and the thing just cut out completely on me. And as I went like that, he's almost going to run in the side of me. And we both were so far off being on the floor at Brandish, which probably only people at Brandish who were there that day might know that. And we came into the pits, and I think Steve's said to his crew, he's trying to knock me off because I'm 30 seconds behind him or something. And I'm trying to shout, my bike keeps cutting out, that sort of thing. Bike is cutting out. I think they held me back from going. Steve Tugsworth, Neil, Tugsworth now he's called. And then obviously I got going and the race was over, and it was running on the 4th lap. It might have cut out. No, on the 4th lap, or the 5th lap. Must have been the 5th lap. It didn't cut out at all. And this was a bit like Steve did probably to me the year before. He had problems. He said he had problems with the brakes, changed them. Just went out, relaxed with his really fast lap on the last lap. I thought, I'm going to smash the lap record out to smithereens. I was like, I finally got used to riding the Honda. I've been sharing it with Joey all week, which wasn't ideal. And obviously missed a few sessions with the weather at TT. But I've got dialed in with this bike now. I was absolutely flying on the thing on the 5th lap. So I thought, the lap record now is going to get smashed to pieces on the 6th lap. I hit Braille, didn't even shut off. Roger Bennett was watching, said, we've never seen anything that's come through there as fast as our lives when we're watching you at top of Braille. Never even shut off at all, all the way down, all the way through, all the way down. It was running absolutely, I was pinpoint accurate everywhere. On the run down to Ballacrane, just that long straight for Ballacrane, just went, woo. I just cut out completely. But it fired up again. I was like, absolutely bouncing. I was like, the rest of the lap, I don't know how I got back. I was clipping curbs and edges and walls and all sorts in my head. I was like, so angry because this was going to be 125 mile an hour without any shadow of a doubt. And the bloody thing cut me again. It fired back up, and I brought it home and we finished second. But yeah, it's a little bit of a story maybe people don't know about, I guess, from 91. But the RVF was incredible bike, incredible. Then we got to ride it then, you see, the 8-hour. And rode really well. Me and Steve had a fantastic time at the 8-hour. We finished third behind Doohan and Gard. Doohan and Gardner won it. Can't remember who was second, but we were third, me and Steve, in mixed conditions. Steve rode really well that day, actually, I must admit. As somebody who wasn't really a threat to me on short circuits, he rode really well that day at the 8-hour race in Suzuka. Yeah, great result, third.
Gents, listen, I could listen to you guys talk all night, but Carl, you've got a party to get to by the sound of it, and Rob, you've got some sunshine to finish off getting before it goes dark over there. Where are you at the minute? Is it the Canaries?
I think Gran Canaria, yeah. We've been here since December, so we're waiting to get back.
That's all right. I'm into it. Well, gents, thank you so much. Cheers, Carl. Cheers, Rob. As ever, cheers, Steve.
Cheers, Carl. Cheers, Steve.
Guys. Thanks, you guys. Take care.
Really appreciate it. Like I say, I could have listened to them guys all night. We're back for one more night tomorrow with a TT lock-in. But coming up next is the final race day of the virtual TT. Hello and welcome to day 4 of racing action here at the virtual TT powered by Motul. Only 2 teams are standing in the way of Davey Todd taking his first ever TT victory, albeit virtual. He's going to take it anyway. The teams in his way, one from America in Team Miller and the other from here in the UK with the fastest ever TT rider around the course, Team Hickman.
We're on board with Peter Hickman as he heads down Bray Hill.
Takes right push, right down next to the ground.
Incredible.
Mark, I tell you what, I never get bored of watching that man ride a bike. But has that VT there whetted your appetite to potentially make a comeback?
Well, to be fair, to see us crashing into these walls and stuff looking exactly like the avatar of our real leathers and helmets, it makes me not want to do the real one again. But no, absolutely it does. But it's nice to be able to have this bit of a simulator to go and play the course with all. It's so realistic that it's very, very engaging and very cool. And you can actually get so focused into it. It's almost like being there.
So when you got back onto the game and you started heading down Bray Hill, did it all just come back to you? Can you remember the corners, remember the turns, remember the bumps?
I got hairs on the back of my neck, and that's a true story. I was literally going down Bray Hill going, I thought I'd put this away for life. I thought I had decided to stop. I'm back on the track. And I was petrified, just like, because I'm like, I'm back on the track. I better pay attention because I'm going down the Bray Hill and, you know, it's well an hour. And I'm just like, it was cool. It was very, very cool and actually surreal.
Alongside you, Mark, is a gamer and our second female competitor in Sarah. Sarah, welcome to the virtual TT.
Hi, it's really nice to be here and really nice to meet you. Yeah, this is really fun to do.
So how many hours have you put into the game so far?
I don't actually know at this point because I have redone so many laps. I had to keep on trying again and again. I've maybe completed like 10, 11 laps max. I don't know how much other people have done, but mine was, you know, I had to keep restarting. So I've done quite minimal amount of completion of laps. So maybe I've put in maybe like, I guess 20, just under 20 hours.
That's enough. That's more than plenty. So if the TT was over like sector 1, you'd probably win this.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
So Mark, before Sarah gets her lap underway, have you got any tips that you can give her before she heads down Bray Hill?
Just that crashing, as she would well know, kills the lap time. So reining it in a little bit will equal overall the better performance. But sometimes it feels slow because you're just trying not to thread things too quick, which you know you can do a little bit better, but you risk blowing.
Let's come to see how Team Miller have got on. First up is Sarah, and we're going to head over now to Dave Moore with all the action.
Next away, Sarah Ligari riding as Michael Dunlop. And flying start along the Glen Crutchley Road. And away we go. Thomas Indians here at Bray Hill. It looks like a confident start, although a lot of movement. Just could do with being a little bit more central. Coming down Bray Hill, just a little bit too much left and right. But slowing for Quarterbridge, she seems to know which way this course goes. So it doesn't look like we're going to see one of the fastest times from Sarah. However, it could be a good, solid performance. Racing for Team Miller. Her racing partner is Mark Miller, the American. So Sarah through Braddon Bridge. So we have the 1 minute mark at Union Mills. Just as a little early guide as to how they're doing. And she kind of hits the 1 minute just as they come into Snugborough. So We don't obviously know how Mark's going to do. So a good solid time from Sarah could be the difference between winning and losing. So 3:16 at Ballacrane. It takes generally around a minute or so to get from Ballacrane to Glen Helen. And this is the really tricky part. I think there are trickier parts to come further north, but this is still, the road flows left to right, but then there are some really adverse cambers, etc., that can catch you out. Really tight turns such as Laurel Bank that just don't follow the flow of the previous left and right hand corners. You'll see it now coming up, it's quite tight. There's the signs warning that the road tightens. She just gets drawn out a little bit but manages to get back on the power again. Once more, I can just mention that it's exit corner speed that really counts at the Isle of Man TT. Maybe not so much through these tight and twisting parts, but certainly when you're going onto a fast straight, and there are plenty of them, then you want to be getting onto those bits of road quicker than going into the corners going in. So there we go. Around she goes, 4 minutes 22. Oh, now then, 1 second behind Aaron Hislop. So she set a good time. She's 8 seconds ahead of Kenny Lamb. Both racing as gamers. So 1 second behind Aaron Hislop and 8 seconds ahead of Kenny Lamb. 4 minutes 22 at Glen Helen. Next timing point is at Ballaugh Bridge.
The time check at Ballaugh is 7 minutes and 50. That makes her 3 seconds behind Aaron Hislop. And we're going to pick up the action here at Ramsey.
Into Parliament Square. Now, has she gained any time on Aaron Hislop? Has she pulled further away from Kenny Lamb and Rennie Skaysbrook at Ramsey Hairpin? It's going to be another close time again. It's been a consistent ride. And when I mean consistent, she's stayed pretty close to Aaron Hislop's time. He was 11:31 at the Ramsey Hairpin. It's going to be a similar from Sarah Ligari. Oh, she slows right down. And now it's just... Now then, if she'd have just maybe gone in a little bit quicker into the hairpin, she may have moved ahead of Aaron Hislop. She now finds herself 1 second behind him, so she's gained 2 seconds on him at Ramsey. 11:32 her time, 11:31 is his. Maybe that's why, as we see her just coming into Waterworks, she just doesn't have that confidence in her cornering. So Mark Miller would really have to come up with a fantastic lap if they're to be in contention for team honours. Now then, oh, she's lost time to Hislop easily. Oh, it's too fast, and down she goes. Oh dear, oh dear. So her time at the bungalow is 14:51. That little spill just cost her a few seconds. She's now 9 behind Aaron Hislop. 13 seconds ahead of Rennie Skaysbrook.
17 minutes and 19 seconds at Cronknamona. 10 down now on Hislop.
So we go into signpost corner again. Cautious. Slow for the turns. Into Bedstead again, just backing it off a little bit, making sure she makes it around. Down into the nook. Governor's Bridge and the dip. Make the sharpest turn. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, and that has cost her. So she does not look like beating 18:12. Just recomposing herself again. Onto Glencrutchy Road now then. Get the hammer down. Get that bike over that line as fast as you can. It's going to be 18:20 something. 18:23.
Team Miller, coming at you live.
18 minutes and 23 seconds there by Sarah. Sarah, you must be happy with that. There was a few wide lines, 1 or 2 crashes, but overall happy?
Yeah, I'm really happy with the lap. I think it was my best lap. I really grinded it, so I'm pretty happy with the outcome. It was only 2 crashes, less than I usually get, so yeah, I'm really good with it.
So, Mark, after watching Sarah's lap there, are you happy with your teammates' time, though?
Yeah, why not? This is awesome.
So making his return now to the TT after a few years away, it's the thriller Mark Miller. Over to Dave now with all the action.
Next away, Mark Miller, riding for Team Miller. Mark, a TT winner in the 0 class a few years ago. But here he is on the EBR Eric Buell racing machine. Very distinctive sounding bike. A very quick bike down Bray Hill and a long Quarter Bridge road. So Mark's certainly no stranger either to the TT course or to success at the Isle of Man TT. Now officially retired from road racing.
Four minutes and 9 at Glen Helen, tying with Jamie Coward at the first split. We pick him up, heading into Kirkmichael, 15 miles into the lap.
The run down into Douglas Road corner, into Kirkmichael. It's again another rapid lap, and it's certainly going to be close between him, Tipper, Porter and Coward. Out of Kirkmichael into Rencullen. Just making sure he negotiates. Just really controlling the throttle. And certainly keeping the revs low to make sure he gets through. So through Bishop's Court we go. Now he should be able to get some really good time together. He knows his way around. And there are seconds to be gained here. The road does tend to bend a lot. However, there is a fairly straight line going down it. So Ballaugh Bridge. Oh, he's 7th. He's just 2 seconds behind. So he's dropped down. He's a couple of seconds behind Coward and Tipper. He's a second behind Porter. So as it stands, Tipper and Coward joint 4th. Louis Porter in 6th place, and Mark Miller now finds himself in 7th. However, we are talking seconds.
At Ramsey Hairpin, his time check is 10 minutes and 34 seconds. Again, tie-in with fellow racer Jamie Coward and a second behind Porter in 4th.
It looks like he has lost time to Jamie Coward. 13:31 for Mark Miller. That puts him in 6th place. He's 3 seconds behind Jamie Coward. 5 seconds ahead of Tipper in 7th. So it's very much a changing leaderboard. It's still Raul Torres in 3rd place, 13 minutes 20 at Bungalow. Oh dear, Mark Miller makes a mistake, and it could be a costly one. He was looking to make up those 3 seconds on Jamie Coward. However, that has cost him Jamie Coward with a near perfect lap, of course. Eric Buell racing machine, sounding superb around the Cregner Bar. So it could be, it's an all or nothing sector now for Mark Miller. There is the possibility of third place, however, that's an 11-second time difference he has to make up on Raul Torres to take third. And looking at the times, just coming into Crocnamona, he won't do it. He's too far outside. He'd have to find some kind of shortcut. So he looks as if he could be on for a top 6 finish. More riders still to come, of course, including the 135 man Peter Hickman. Mark Miller down out of Bedstead. Into Governors. That's pretty perfect, wonderful. All apart from the exit, really, just a little bit wobbly. He kept it nice and tight, but then just lost a second or two. So then, he's going to be outside Torres. He's going to be outside Porter. He's outside Jamie Coward as well. Oh, here we go. He's level. In fact, he's 7th. He slips back 16:45.
16 minutes 45 by Mark Miller there. Mark, I mean, all we need to do now is put a bit of voiceover from Milky Quail, and that could be an onboard TT lab to help the newcomers out. That was pretty impressive, barring that crash. Barring that crash.
I was so slow and safe just not to crash because, just if you can get around there without a crash. But no, thank you. It's all good.
Sarah, what do you think about that from the Thriller? Do you think you should make a comeback?
I don't know how he actually did that because I tried the first person perspective and I could not do it. It is the hardest thing. This game is already hard by itself. Mm-hmm. And to do it in first person perspective is even harder. So I have no idea how he did that time.
So guys, the question we need answering now is whereabouts you are on that leaderboard. A combined team time of 35 minutes and 8 seconds. You happy with that?
Yeah, please.
That's mega. After the break, one more team take to the start line, and that includes team captain Peter Hickman, the fastest man around the TT course. Join us after the break. Hello and welcome back to the Virtual TT powered by Motul. Now the time has come to send the final team down Glen Crutchery Road. Only one team is standing in the way of Team Todd taking their first ever Virtual TT victory. It's going to be a big one. It's Team Hickman.
Peter Hickman, this looks like a cracking opening sector.
lesson from the master.
Tell you what, that makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up every time I watch that. Peter Hickman, welcome to the virtual TT. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Pete, I'll be honest, I didn't have you down as much of a gamer. Like, have you put some hours into this game, or are you just relying on the fact that, well, you're the fastest man around the TT to set a decent time?
Well, I was a gamer when I was a kid, a bit more, but a little bit. I played it a lot when it first came out, when I got the download. So, but I haven't really played it until they asked me to do this. So I only really did a practice lap and then got straight onto it.
Obviously, we all should be there right now, enjoying the festival that is the TT. You must be gutted to not be there on one hand, but safe in the knowledge that I guess you're still the lap record holder for another year.
Yeah, obviously it's massively disappointing for everyone. We should be on the Isle of Man now and basking in the sunshine, which is just even more typical, isn't it? But the weather forecast is pretty awesome for the next couple of weeks. But hey, we've just got to all deal with it how we deal with it. It's I should have been at Donington last weekend. I should have been at Northwest the week before. But you just got to kind of deal with what's going on. I mean, I've been managing to keep busy here at PHR, and yeah, looking forward to finally getting back out on a bike sometime soon.
Right, Pete, it's time to meet your teammate. This guy is coming all the way from Russia. He's an avid gamer and a TT fan. It's Alex Petrov. Hello and welcome to the virtual TT.
Hello, guys. Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Good.
So, Alex, you're teamed up alongside the fastest man ever to lap the TT course. Are you feeling a little bit of pressure now?
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, because I didn't ride any bike like in the real world, so I just maybe did it once or twice some really long time ago, and I'm more of a car guy in the real world. But yeah, and I was just like realizing how actually hard it is to handle a bike, even in the virtual world. It was kind of like an insane experience for me. So I'm pretty like excited about being here with Pete.
And Pete, are you slightly nervous that you've got a gamer who potentially could lap the circuit faster than you?
That is more than possible for sure. Yeah, I probably should have practiced a little bit more. Now I'm sat here now. I'm thinking maybe I should have just done a little bit more practice and made sure that my lap time was really, really strong. But we'll wait and see. I'm interested to find out.
I don't know who should be giving who tips here. Should it be the gamer or should it be the racer? I just have no idea. Right, we're going to get straight into the action with Alex's lap. So we're going to throw over now to Dave Moore, who's going to take you through all the action.
We've never had a Russian take on the Isle of Man TT races. Alex Petrov, the first Russian to take on the virtual TT powered by Motul. And like many others before him, he's elected to go for David Johnson's Honda. Alex Petrov racing for Team Hickman. Now, even possibly as a newcomer, you'd fancy his chances of taking the team award with Peter Hickman alongside you, but he certainly doesn't seem to know, or certainly not as familiar with the Isle of Man TT course. That was a fairly cautious drop down Bray Hill and along Quarterbridge Road towards Quarterbridge. And I think we could be looking at one of the more slower times here. So Petrov out of Quarterbridge. It is ultra cautious. It will be one of the slower, and he's got traffic behind him as well. Whether they're going to catch him remains to be seen. So into Braddon Bridge. Yeah, leaned right over. So what will Alex's approach be? He's backing off for the corners. Yeah, he certainly doesn't know his way around as perhaps he should. That's the indicators, of course, at the top of the screen telling him what's coming up. So through Union Mills rather cautiously.
So at Ballaugh, Alex had a split of 9 minutes and 36 seconds. He's now on his way into Ramsey.
And he might just have a little bit more joy, as I said earlier, on the run, where it's road is far more open. Certainly along here there are walls and trees and things to really cloud your judgment. Lots of things to take in, lots of things to, not that you would normally look at, but you can't help but look at. But over the mountain, it's really open, of course. Too windy for trees.
At Cronknamona, Alex has a split of 21 minutes and 14 seconds, and we pick him up at Governors.
So he just needs to make sure he can keep it going. And as I say that, and the road really does tighten after Hilbury. And there goes Michael Rutter. So Alex, please, just follow Michael down. There is nothing to be gained by trying to pass him. Just learn the road from the master. Oh dear, oh dear. So Alex has got what will be, or what will prove to be, the very tricky right-hand turn at Governor's Bridge. Getting back into the swing of things. Through the nook. Blipping that throttle. Oh, I was going to say that's not too bad. Oh, it's become a little bit of a traffic jam through the dip. So Alex Petrov then, our first Russian at the virtual TT powered by Motul, is going to cross the line. 22 minutes and 29 seconds.
Alex, I mean, apart from the final crash down near, was it Hilbury? That was a decent lap. Are you happy with that one?
Thank you for that. But that was the one that I was actually happy with. But I believe that if I could practice more, it might be even better. But it's really hard. It's not that easy that it might seem from the outside, but that's really hard.
What do you think to that lap? Are you happy with your teammate?
Yeah, not too bad at all. I mean, it kind of reminded me of my first lap, kind of sitting up in places where you would be kind of flat out normally. But yeah, no, it looked like you were fairly smooth in the end, to be honest. So that run down to Brandish looked pretty good. Just Hilbury maybe need to work on.
So the time has come now to see if Peter Hickman can knock off Team Todd from that top spot on the leaderboard. Pete, it's all down to you as we head back to Dave Moore with the fastest man around the TT's lap.
Here he is. It's the man, Peter Hickman, racing as Peter Hickman for Team Hickman. He's partnered by Alex Petrov, but here we go.
Down Bray Hill we go. First lap, full tank of fuel, cold tyres.
So down Bray Hill, and of course Peter Hickman, the man who did the 135, the only man to have done 135 miles an hour around the Isle of Man TT course. On the Smiths Racing BMW. Slows for Quarter Bridge. And this is good from Peter Hickman. He's not just handy on a bike. He knows how to control a game console controller as well. Slows for Braddon Bridge. This is where he overshot that time quite famously. Still managed to claw it back. Always admits he's The start of a TT race takes him a few miles to get settled in.
There. Oh, needed a good exit. Wasn't the best exit, but it was all right.
So through Union Mills for Peter Hickman. The 1 mile uphill run to Ballygarry.
Real fast section for a long time now. Going to be on the throttle for a long, long way.
The split for Hickey at Glen Helen is 4 minutes and 12 seconds. That makes him 3 seconds behind Coward and Miller.
So, Peter Hickman, this is a fantastic lap. I've been concentrating so hard on the comparison with his own 135 mile an hour lap. I've not been checking to see where he is on the leaderboard. He was around 3 seconds behind Jamie Coward, and here we are at Ballaugh. 7 minutes 18, that's 4 seconds behind Coward, 4 seconds behind Sam Tipper, 3 seconds behind Louis Porter, and 2 seconds behind Mark Miller.
Scary corner, proper ballsy. You'd be doing it in fifth really on the super. You'd be over onto the right hand side of the road, I'm on the left. In my first year you do it on the left because it's less of a jump on the left, but once you start going fast you haven't got a choice, you end up on the right whether you like it or not. Quarry Bend.
So Quarry Bends, 7 minutes 50, that's pretty much spot on for the 135 mile an hour target. And you have to get out of Quarry Bends really fast to get onto the Solby Straight.
10 minutes and 34 seconds at Ramsey, same as Jamie Coward. A good, consistent lap so far from Hickey.
Awesome corner Guthries. 3 apexes, suited through third apex, hard on the brakes. Had a big spin out of here in 2018 on the fastest lap.
Oh dear, onto the grass, and down goes Hickman once again.
Too wide.
Just pushing it a little bit too far, and this is going to cost him. Oh dear,
no.
Concentration's gone, focus has gone.
Trying to make time up, that's what happens, you see. You make a mistake and then you try and make time up, you just make more mistakes.
So that battle with Jamie Coward for a place in the top 6, he may have just thrown that away. Jamie Coward was 13.28 at the Bungalow. Raul Torres Martinez 13.20, but there's other riders as well. Sam Tipper at 13.36.
16 minutes and 11 seconds at Cronknamona. That puts him 8th overall, 16 seconds up on Connor Cummins in 9th.
Oh dear, really taking it to the edge. Swinging it around into Signpost Corner. We've got the real tricky Governor's Bridge coming up. Oh, it just clips the street light. It's funny, you come into Governor's, you've been going so fast for so long over the mountain, and then you have to really slow down. The kind of planet comes back to you almost. But here we go. To go across the finish line, well, he's not doing 16:42. It's going to be 17 minutes 6 seconds.
17:06. 32.4. No, not too bad.
17 minutes and 6 seconds. Pete, how was that lap for you?
Apart from the crashing, it wasn't too bad. I get so annoyed with myself as well. Like, even when I watched it back then, I'm like, I know where I can be better. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah, it looks so much easier when you look back. Like, after I've watched all these laps now, I think I could jump on it and be a pro and go around it in 15 minutes. But that's not the case when you pick up the control pad. Unfortunately for you guys, a team time of 39 minutes and 30 seconds, meaning that Davey Todd has won his first ever virtual TT. Pete, you must be
I kind of figured, everything I've seen and everything that we've been talking about leading up to this, every picture or example has been of Davey Todd. That means he has been on that game, doing nothing else but that game for a while. So yeah, I kind of expected Davey to be very fast. What time did he do? Just what was his lap?
He did a 15-minute 44.
Well, that's good. Which is what, 140 point something mile an hour, or 150 maybe.
Right,
Yeah.
so you're going to have to pull your finger out next year's TT to master that time in the real world now, right?
I can have a go. I'm not entirely sure it's possible, but I can have a go.
So there we have it. The virtual TT powered by Motul is over. The action has been insane. It's been amazing. And Davey Todd has finally got his first ever TT victory. Not only thanks to Davey, but also Davey's teammate, gamer Sam Tipper. Congratulations to Sam on his first ever TT victory as well. I doubt we ever thought we would be saying that about him. But make sure in 2021, you join us back on the island for some real world action. Thanks for watching, everybody. So a huge congratulations to Team Todd and obviously Davey Todd, essentially taking his first ever TT victory.
15:44.
That'll do.
We'll be chatting to Davey alongside some other TT stars tomorrow night, including Lee Johnson, James Hillier, Jamie Coward, Connor Cummins, and Davo Johnson. I have no idea how we're going to control all those in the TT Lock-In Live, but it should be fun. And don't forget, to get all your news from the Isle of Man TT, head over to iomttraces.com and subscribe to the newsletter. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for more TT Lock-In fueled by Monster Energy.